everyone, this is Christina within the garden, and I wanted to show you some tips and tricks I learned about promoting plant growth. First, but let me walk you through a couple things you can do for onions, tomatoes, peppers, so anything that has flowers on it, so pumpkins and squash and cucumbers. Let's talk about it. These are tips and tricks that I learned and I wanted to share with you. These are our pepper plants, and we want these pepper plants to grow in both height and diameter. And by putting off fruit like this right away, it's focusing on that fruit's growth and not so much growing the plant itself. Other things you can do while we're here today too is trim off the bottom leaves here. We did that on our tomatoes. When leaves touch the ground like this one is today, it can create disease and it can create opportunity for the plant to actually become sick and die. So what we're gonna do real quick is take all of these peppers off, which I know is probably feels like a shame, but the fact is the plant will grow larger if it doesn't have to focus on fruit at this time. So let's go through and take all of these peppers off of here. All of them have them. Look at that. That one's got like 4, 5. We want it to focus on growing into a larger plant that will have a bigger yield. And so let's let it focus on that and get some of these trimmed up. So all of these pepper plants have been pruned back. They've lost all of their bottom leaves so that we don't promote sickness or rot or infection, so that it's perfectly fine for it to start up at this point. Okay, so that's pepper plants. So that's tip number 1. Something else you want to look at doing is removing seed heads off of onions. While this looks super cool, it is putting all of its energy into the seed pod, and so we just want to take these off. We want the onion to continue to bulb up like it is here. Okay, so we're going to be removing any dead foliage. The dead foliage doesn't really matter, I just don't love the look of it. Okay. And then we're going to take all of these seed heads off. So this is a seed head, and I'm not going to leave them in there. I'm just going to pick them up in a minute. Oh, one more. Okay, now you can save seed from this. This will turn into an onion. So you can save seeds from this. However, the germination rate is kind of unknown, depending on where you got the seeds for these onions or if you bought them in the store. And so we're going to take all of those off, let the onions focus on becoming bigger bulbs and bigger onions. So promoting larger bulb growth, like you're seeing here, is taking off the seed heads. This one had a seed head on top, we took it off, and now the plant can focus on just growing where you want it to grow. And now you'll continue to see these onions come with seed heads, because at this point it's grown to the point where it thinks it needs to reproduce itself and set out seed, and you're just telling it, no, don't do that. So tip number 1 was take the fruit off of your pepper plants. You can do that with tomatoes too, so that it can focus on the growth of the plant itself and not the fruit. Okay, so we're going to go around and take the tomatoes off as well. Another thing you want to do when gardening is have flowers. These are Shasta daisies, And this is lavender. Let's see, it is English Thumbelina Lee lavender. The lavender won't stay in there, but the Shastas likely will, the Shasta daisies. You want to have flowers around plants that need pollinating. Plants that need pollinating are like pumpkins. These pumpkins right here actually have flowers that come out, and it's pollinating that creates the pumpkin or the cucumber or the squash. And so the flowers attract the pollinators, which is what we're looking for. And planting flowers in your beds, these are the two I have, but I also have flowers nearby right there. So I'll probably add more as I go, but these are some of the things you can do to promote pollination. Basil is like a lot of things. Pollinators actually love these basil flowers, but we're gonna cut them off because we don't want, again, the plant to worry about reproducing itself. Now, if you wanted to, you could leave these here, and it's maybe possible that you would drop enough seeds to recreate another basil plant, but I've done that for years and it doesn't seem to come back. But I like putting them there. The pollinators can use them down there at the bottom until then. In the meantime, cut them off so that you focus on growth, and these will start sprouting on these inner blooms and these inner growth patterns instead of focusing on putting out seed. Okay, to tomatoes. This tomato plant is already trying its best to put off fruit. Now you might be like, oh no, I don't want to lose my only tomato. Well, the thing is that it won't focus on growing the plant if we leave it there. Then also, you want to take off these bottom leaves. I did, when I first planted them, take off what I thought was the bottom leaves, but let's just be sure by trimming it all the way up, okay? Now if you see those over there, those are garlic. If garlic starts looking like this, you're perfectly fine. Garlic lets you know it's done by letting the tops of its system, its growth system, die back. So we always know that garlic's ready to go when it looks like it's completely mangy. So perfectly fine. All right, so let me cut off all of the tomato leaves and the tomato fruit. Now, tomatoes are an interesting thing. See how this has fruit rot? It could be that the plant isn't strong enough to continue to grow the fruit. It could be that the plant already has some kind of damage or disease. And if these weren't damaged, and if they look just like this, let's say, you could put these inside and they will ripen. They'll take a long time when they're in this infancy stage, but green tomatoes can be ripened indoors, so never throw them away. When you get to the end of your growing season, you might find that you have lots of green tomatoes. I bring them all inside and they ripen inside. We don't want it focusing on those immature plants. Now this one has kind of got a funky growth pattern. It's growing like over, but we do not have any bottom leaves, so we're good there. See how that leaf is growing down and touching the ground? When the water is hitting the soil and splashing back up, it can cause leaf rot and disease, which is odd if you think about it, right? Because our plant is in the dirt, but somehow, and you'll have to look it up yourself because I've done the same, is somehow it does promote better growth just to let it be so much higher. Now this is what we call a sucker, and suckers are okay on determinates, but indeterminate tomatoes, you want to go ahead and take the sucker off. A sucker is when new growth happens at a corner. So let me show you right here. This is a sucker, and this is an indeterminate tomato, meaning it'll continue to grow. So we can take the suckers off. This is a sucker that we allowed to have happen. So this one should have been taken off and not there because we want it to promote growth in the main parts, so the main leader. So this would have been a main leader, and then this would have been a main leader, but the sucker made it faster and grew, so we're gonna leave that there. With them taking fruit off your plant when they're early in their infancy and still trying to grow is always a good idea. Sometimes pruning adds growth, and I think people get really scared of that. In fact, thinning is a concept that you do when you're growing seedlings, and thinning kills me because you could grow 4 plants, and to thin them out you would kill probably 3 of them. And so it makes the one that is growing within the actual soil the stronger one. It makes the one plant you really need even stronger. So with that, just think about the things that you can do to promote plant growth. Take your fruit off your peppers and your tomatoes when it's too early in the season. Take the seed heads off of both the basil and the onions. Plant flowers where you need pollinators to come. Pollinators are bees, and any kind of insect that transfers pollen from one plant to the other. Pumpkins in particular cannot reproduce pumpkins without cross-pollination, and so they need pollination to happen. Tomatoes also need pollination. You'll see people come and shake their tomato bushes in an effort for the pollen to fall into the other areas. So if you're not experiencing a lot of tomato growth, you might need to do what's called self-pollination, where you shake the tomato plant. It's gotten really hot out here, and that promotes pollen distribution, I guess you could say. So with that, I'll just leave you with this quick video on tips and tricks you can do for your garden. If you know of any that you'd like to share with me, please comment below, and I hope you have a great day. See you in the next one.